We are back for season 2 of Move, Talk, Thrive. I am here with Emily Mackey, and we are doing our first episode, and we're going to talk all about the immune system, which is such a hot topic when you are working with kids. We have both been through it, and today we are going to unpack what has worked for us, what we've been through, and just our hot tips in managing our immune system. So let's get stuck in. I'm Lizzie Dawson, Australian exercise physiologist.
I'm Emily Mackey, Australian speech pathologist.
And this is the Move, Talk, Thrive podcast. Yay! Season 2.
Yeah.
We are back, Em. How exciting. And now it's even a little bit more nerve-wracking than the first time because we actually have a bit of an audience. We've had over 1,000 downloads, which is exciting.
We have. Thank you everyone who has tuned in so far and who has listened. We have loved hearing all of your feedback and hearing all of your learnings that you've had. And it has blown our minds how we've been able to help you and how we've been able to share our knowledge with you. It has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And I know that I definitely felt it. And we talked about just tinsy bit of imposter syndrome with releasing the podcast. So all that amazing feedback has been so helpful, hasn't it, Em?
It's helped to boost us up big time. So it's been a couple of weeks since we last spoke to you guys, and we just wanted to fill you in and catch you up on where we're at, I guess, with our business and our lives as well. So Lizzie, what have you been up to I think it's been a month, hasn't it?
It has. Yeah. So, and when we last recorded, it was, it was actually a few months ago, wasn't it? So It's been, 2024, hey? Feels like it's been a year already. It has
the life of a
been,
business owner.
Oh, yeah. I tell you what. So I've been full. My schedule has been full. Kids Heart Pilates has gone. It's just, we've just got some momentum. So we've actually grown at like a multiplier of 8 since January. So I've grown my clinic team from 2 people to 8 people, which is insane. And it's just really, really busy. Northside Allied Health is all, cruising along, which is great. And then I've got some really cool projects that that have been in the works, one of which is a research project with a local university, and we're gathering data from July on the Kids Heart Pilates program, and we're looking at gross motor and cognitive and social emotional skills, which is super exciting. And also a really exciting project is I am working with one of the leading childcare chains, and I'm writing their gross motor curriculum. So that is about to kick off as well. So it's been big things.
Amazing. Like I'm like, cheery me, woohoo.
Thank you.
If you are in business and listening, you know how hard it is to run a business. So to 8x your business in 4 months is actually kind of mad, kind of crazy, but it's a season, right? And you have a goal of what you want to achieve. And obviously that's helping children, and you've got the children there that need the help.
Yeah.
But that is crazy. Yeah. When I started speaking about, I 8x'd it, but I 8x'd it in 2 years. So that's just, and I felt like that was very difficult. So to give our listeners a bit of perspective, but also writing a curriculum for a Australia-wide chain is incredible as well. And that's why we're here on the podcast, because we are doing big things. And we want to share with you guys to inspire you to do big things too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. It's been very exciting. So tell us what you've been up to.
Me. Okay. So we celebrated 10 years of Speaker Out. Yeah. We had a lovely team event, which was actually really fun. We did 80s theme, and we had a murder mystery party. So that was cool. And we then also had a massive community event, which we had a couple of hundred people attend. And that was amazing as well, just to celebrate all the wins that we've had over the last 10 years. And I think the biggest thing was how far we have come in personal growth, and myself, how far I've grown, and nothing like business to push you out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
So we celebrated 10 years in Speak About. And then the other big thing that's been happening for me is that we have decided as a family that we're going to make a move and a change personally. So we are going to be moving ourselves from Sydney up to the Central Coast. So it's a really big move. Moving, like changing suburbs or locations. For me, I have never lived further than 10 minutes from home. So I am now moving an hour and a half away from where I grew up. My husband Michael has never lived near home since he was 18. So yeah, but with our children, it's time for Evie to go to school. So we're doing a big move personally that will be happening over the next month. But we have our Central Coast Clinic up in Tuggerah, so we'll be moving up there to also give the Central Coast Clinic a bit of love now that I've spent the last 10 years down in Sydney. So yeah, that's been happening for us, which is quite big.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And I've just loved watching the process because it's been you kind of connecting with what's really important for you and your family and really like living a kind of, purpose filled life. Like it's really, really been nice to watch and see evolve.
Thank you, Lizzie. It's been in the works for a long time, but the biggest lesson I thought in this move and sort of have come to, like you said, for lifestyle, is if you're going to be a leader, you need to be inspiring to others. And so when you sacrifice everything for a dream or a business, which is what kind of I have done or felt like I have done, that's not really inspiring to anyone. Like being a martyr is not. So that's a bit of a story of personal growth on the back end is, okay, we actually had a dream to live by the coast. So we're making that dream a reality. And that's how I want to be inspiring to my girls and my team so that you can actually work and achieve your dreams as well.
Absolutely. I just think, that's very inspiring because I think, and I don't know whether you're the same, but sometimes I think that as a business owner or a leader, maybe like a lead or a manager, you feel like you're having to prove yourself and, show that you're doing the hard yards. But what happens is, you kind of you fall into that habit of doing it and you keep doing it and, you burn out and you kind of take stock and go, wait a second, I was supposed to just do this for a few years and then I was supposed to do this. So I think it's really, really cool that you are doing exactly what you wanted and set yourself up to do. I think that's a great, example of what we should be doing.
That's the point, right? If you're going to open your business or if you're going to work, like whatever you do, doesn't matter if it's business. If you're working, then that work needs to lead you to how you want to live your life. Otherwise, then what's the point?
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had lots of things happening for both of us. But yeah, we're so excited to be here for season 2. So the first thing we thought we'd talk about, like Lizzie has alluded to in our intro, is boosting our immune systems while we are working with children and while we have so many, we're exposed to so many germs, particularly over winter, but now it's sort of all year round, I feel. So we wanted to really, dive into this as best we can.
Let's just preface this with this is not medical advice. We are not GPs. This is just our experience because some of the things that we might bring up, just remember that this is just our experience and we are not giving you medical advice.
No, go and see your GP if you have questions. But nevertheless, it's an extremely important topic to talk about as a student, as a new grad, and even if you're just going into pediatrics with no matter how many years of experience you have, or if you're changing settings, this can be an issue as well. So, absolutely. I mean, it's pretty timely that we're talking about this because the reason why we had to delay a bit of the podcast was because I was so sick. I don't think you were sick. It was me. I was so sick. It came with our family for about 2 weeks. So it was pretty bad timing because I was meant to start my challenge, which that's the other thing I've done recently is I ran a 4-week challenge in the PLA library. And that week we were meant to start, I got really, really sick and I lost my voice and my throat was on fire. And as a speechy, our main mode of working is using our voices and our bodies. So really, if as a speechy you lose your voice, you're really incapacitated, which is what happened to me. I was like, I can't run any of my live sessions. I can't do any of my socials. I can't record a podcast. because of my voice. So that took me out for 2 weeks. And I think if you have children, then it sort of cycles around in your family. So it's even more important to be on top of these things. But essentially, we have to be very proactive with our health.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's what happens. So that's a good example of why we're talking about this today, because that's just, a very simple example of what happened to me just other than the last month.
Yeah. And I think it's important that, we're not going to, it doesn't matter how you like nail down the prevention, you're always going to get sick. It's just trying to minimize the frequency of that. And I think we're so exposed when we're working with kids that we need to set ourselves up, because we know that when we're sleep deprived, when we're, not taking appropriate rest, when we're, maybe going out partying, if you're in your 20s, if you're exercising a lot and doing high intensity exercise, it's all going to compromise your immune system, or it's all going to steal energy that your immune system might need to fight off different bugs. So I think we just want to set you up for success.
Lizzie, do you remember when you first started working with children, did you get like more sick than what you had previously known, or what about in your early career?
Yeah, oh my goodness, it was intense. I distinctly remember driving home from a Pilates class and having to pull over to throw up out of the car because of the gastro bugs that I was getting.
Oh.
So and it was literally, I was totally fine. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I am going to be sick. So like literally pull over. And that's the sort of thing, that's obviously stuck in my memory. But then it was all, the cold viruses. I remember one year, and granted, I was training for Ironman, or I think it was just after I'd done an Ironman. So lots and lots of high intensity and big training sessions. But I did like 8 rounds of antibiotics in 6 months or less. It was every kind of,
oh my goodness.
yeah, it was insane. So I didn't actually have a choice but to really look at what was going on, and just address my immune system. So I took myself to the naturopath and just went, right, what I need a baseline here. We looked at my diet. We looked at my exercise. She put me on lots of different vitamins, and we just did a bit of an overhaul. Like she did blood testing, all of that sort of stuff. And it actually made a huge difference. So I've definitely been there. How about you?
Yes, definitely. I want to come back to so many things that you said just then, but I'm sure so our listeners do too. But yes, for me, so I remember when I started working, so I was seeing 12 to 13 children a day, just straight out of the gate. So doing that Monday to Thursday and then had a half day Friday, that's like 65 children that you're exposed to with germs in one room, like a closed room, every week. So I started working in the January. I think summer is okay. I think that the trends are changing now, like post COVID. I don't think it matters what season you're in. But back then, before COVID, summer was okay. And then winter hit. And I remember I have never been as sick as I was in my entire life that first winter that I worked as a new graduate. And I had severe or chronic bronchitis. I couldn't shake it. I had to take over a week off from work, and I felt so embarrassed that I had just started this job and I physically couldn't get up. I couldn't go into work. And I kept going back to the doctor, and he was like, no, you can't go back in. Like your cough is so bad, you can't talk. And that was my first sort of experience with being really, really sick in the first 6 months. And no one had sort of told me that this would happen or that it was normal. So I thought it was just me. But then as I grew in my career, and then I started having students for placements, and then started talking to lots of other new graduates, and then obviously having my own employees, I noticed a trend. The same thing happened with every person that came through in their first year. or even probably like in their last year of placement, because the number of children they were seeing increased. So I think it's just we've never been exposed to that many children in such a short period of time in such a small space. And children come in with bodily fluids everywhere. Everywhere, snot, saliva, and particularly as a speechy, we're often working really closely like to their face and their mouth. And you know, if a child's got snot running down their nose, I would often just grab a tissue. Obviously, I sanitize my hands and whatnot, but I would just do that because like otherwise the snot goes all over the toys. So you're just exposed to that in your sessions. So yes, I've also had my fair share. I did not know about a naturopath until very late on in my career when I started my business. So at that time, I just went on antibiotics, and I think I did a couple of rounds and that cleared it. And then I think I just kept doing that every year until I sort of found alternative methods, which we will talk about. But yes, I think let's just normalize it first that it probably will happen to you as a student or in your first or second year.
Absolutely. And don't you reckon that, I don't know whether you did, but I feel like I did. And I see lots of other people coming through and they're like, oh yeah, you know, I'm pretty good. My immune system's pretty good. And I'm like, okay.
Now you can really test that theory.
Because you can't escape it. And like you say, and like we've talked about, like in previous episodes, to engage children, we need to get on their level. We need to play. And all of that means that you're in really close proximity to them. So yeah, you need to gear up, get yourself sorted, and have a bit of a preventative plan, I think. So let's get stuck into that.
What we can do. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned it before as well though, but looking at what you're doing on the weekend is a good place to start, and how you're spending your time out of work. So you mentioned rest before, and exercise. Like if you've got goals in life, you know, whether you're training you are doing a triathlon. Me personally, I'm not going to do that, but I do like
but you're running, right?
I'm running now. And back in the day, I did go to the gym and lots of things like that. So exercise was always a component, but obviously to what intensity you're training. But anyway, like exercise is obviously meant to help you. So I'm not the exercise specialist you are, but exercise is meant to help you. But I've learned from you, this is what I've learned from you. But if you're training too hard, that can impact you, right?
Absolutely. So I think, and you know, I don't feel like it's common knowledge. I think, you know, there's that saying, sweat it out, which couldn't be more wrong. So I think we need to be really careful about our exercise intensity. So we've got aerobic versus anaerobic cardiovascular exercise. So this is like walking compared to running. Aerobic is when you're utilizing fat, and we've got loads of fat in our body to use. So it's not taxing. So we can exercise at this intensity for a really long time without it compromising our immune system. It's actually fine to do aerobic exercise when you are a little bit unwell, like if you feel like you're under the weather. So when I've got a cold, as long as I'm not, you know, feeling terrible, I'll go out for a walk, and that's fine. And the way to test that is just the talk test. So if you can go for a walk with a friend and you can maintain conversation without your breath interrupting it, that's the perfect sort of intensity. That is not taxing on our immune system, and it actually promotes blood flow. So it can be quite good for the immune system. Anaerobic or high intensity cardiovascular, so that's more like running. So if you were going for a walk and you're with a friend and then you start to walk up a hill and your breathing starts to interrupt your conversation, that's when we go into anaerobic. That's when we're utilizing carbohydrate, and we don't store a lot of carbohydrates so in our muscle, and that means that we'll burn through that quite quickly. And then we can go into muscle metabolism, and we need our muscle for our immune system. So when we go into high intensity exercise, we need to fuel properly. We need to make sure that we have adequate rest. And this is something that you shouldn't do when you feel like you're getting sick, or you are sick, or you're just feeling a bit under the weather. So for me, for example, I had my course launch last week. It was a really, really hectic, busy time. I'm also training for a half marathon at the moment, but I just didn't run because I knew I was tired. I was getting lots of sleep, but I was just really tired. So I was really aware of that. I knew that if I taxed myself from an exercise perspective at the same time as my work being really busy, that I would end up getting sick. Plus I'm, exposed to more bugs than the normal person. So it's just training, I guess, sensibly when you are perhaps busier than normal or you feel like you're under the weather. So that high intensity is not something that I would do when you feel like you're either really busy or you feel like you might be getting sick. And weights is the other thing. Weights is, I would never do resistance training when I feel like I'm getting sick, because again, it's basically when you're doing those more stressful exercises where stressing the body. So the body needs energy to replenish and restore the damage that we're causing to those body systems. And that takes energy. And so you need that energy when you're fighting off a bug. So if you're stealing it for exercise, then you can't use it to fight off bugs, which is why you get sick all the time.
Oh, that's amazing to know. That's so good. That's so good. Because I think the key is there when you feel like you're getting sick, because obviously when you're sick, like your body's probably telling you most of the time, like, you're very fatigued and things not to be, but it's important to look at before. And so that could feel like you might just have a bit of a dry throat come on, or you might be feeling like more fatigued than usual, or you might have a little bit of a headache coming on. Like it's listening to your body, isn't it? And
Absolutely.
going, okay, oh, I feel like a little niggle coming on, I'm going to do something about it now rather than wait till it gets full blown.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think being in tune, I quite like meditating in the morning and just trying to listen to my body and see how it's feeling. And then even going for a walk and seeing how it's feeling. And if I'm worried about it, I just go on the side of caution and just go light and go, okay, I'm going to wait till I'm feeling really good to go out. It's just balancing the ego, I think. Like I feel like exercise can really trigger that ego to come out. And it happens with me all the time. I'm like, I've got to run really fast. And this is a whole nother episode, isn't it? Talking about training. But yeah, it's just being mindful of where our body's at and exercising accordingly, I think, because we don't want to not exercise. It's so good for us, but being mindful if we're training for something or how we're feeling, I think.
What about like stretching or Pilates? Because that's what you do with the kids. Is
Yeah.
that something? Because I find that really relaxing
Yeah.
to stretch, particularly if I've been sitting all day or working all day. If you're stretching, that's something you could do. That's if you're feeling a little under the weather, you can still do that.
Absolutely. Stretching is not taxing at all. And like you say, it's quite relaxing. Pilates, there's a lot of strength in there. So I would be careful with Pilates because
Oh,
there's a lot
okay.
of strength in there. But stretching, totally fine. Walking, totally fine. And then it's just, easing back into it. I kind of like to have a rule that I need to feel 100% for 2 days before I start getting into high intensity. So Pilates can be high intensity. It really depends on how hard you push yourself. So, yeah, I think it's, again, just working within what's kind of comfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, that's when we're stressing the body out. But typically Pilates is strength. So again, be mindful of that.
That's really good advice. Really good advice. And so then if we pair exercise then with diet,
Mm,
obviously, again, we're not experts in
no,
food. Lizzie would be way more than me just because of your profession. But obviously, if your diet is high in sugar, that's not going to be helping your immune system. And so when we're talking about sugar, we're not talking about, sugar that you put in your coffee or coffee and tea. It's what's in the actual food that you're eating. So, Lizzie, you're pretty good with your diet, aren't you?
oh, look, I could
It's up and
definitely
down.
be better. Yeah, I'm not amazing at my diet. I feel like I'm aware. Pete, my husband, is so good. He just makes really good decisions. But I think also an important thing to note is that when you are sick or when you need more energy to fight off bugs, you need more energy when you're training for a half marathon, you need more energy when you're doing that high intensity exercise, you need to eat more. So it's about eating the right foods. but also that's another trigger to tell us if maybe we need more energy at the moment. And is that because we might be under the weather? So, that could be another thing that we look at is, I'm really craving carbohydrates. So like, I'm not a dietitian. I'm not going to give
Yeah, I was
too
going to
much
say it would be
advice.
good to talk to a dietitian, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And talking to a dietitian, if you are training, to make sure you are, eating enough before. And the key with exercise and diet is to eat before you, like fueling before you do exercise, so that we're not again going into that deficit, which is then going to, lead to burnout and muscle burning and the rest of the things. But that's a whole nother topic really. But I think if you feel like you're getting sick frequently, things like higher protein, lower sugar intake, and that's, refined sugar, low, like alcohol, obviously. They're
Yeah,
saying
alcohol.
the data is that there's no safe amount. So I think that's, something to really take into consideration. And it disturbs your sleep, which is really important for our immune system, and fluid, increasing water. So I remember when I was getting sick all the time, I was working with dietitians. I used to work with dietitians full time, so it was amazing. But the recommendation was high protein, lots of water, as many healthy foods as possible, and in and around exercise. So getting advice on that if you are exercising, and then being mindful that exercise is going to be taxing, and if you're getting sick frequently, to really look at that.
Yeah, and that's something that you could do really practically if you're working with children in back-to-back sessions. You can have some healthy snacks with you. Like I used to keep a few things in my desk drawer, and also having water like all the time in between sessions, during sessions, and then that can sort of really help your overall body, obviously. But if you're talking a lot, that can help your voice and your throat and that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to go out on the road for the day, and it's actually my psychologist said, make sure you've got loads. And like, so I was doing really big days, like seeing, like over 200 kids in a day, because I was doing group classes. And she's like, make sure you've got loads of water and loads of really fresh, healthy snacks, because it makes you actually feel good too. So I would take like carrots and tomatoes, and I'd have them in little containers, and I just snack on them in the car in between sessions, and nuts and and high protein yogurt and that sort of thing. That's really, really good from a, energy perspective.
Boosting. Yeah, energy boosting. And that's sort of what we need as well. Like if we're feeling like we've got a couple of kids back to back, how can we boost our energy? And I think that way you can be sort of smart. Obviously, if you've got younger kids, you're not just going to sit there and pull out a muesli bar in front of a young child. But if I used to have a school age child come in who was about 10, and I knew that they'd be mature enough, I would say, I'm just going to have this quickly while I'm doing your cards or your sounds or something like that with them. And I chose the snacks to be really practical so I could have them in the session. They were just little bite-sized things. And I think as long as you talk to the parents about that and the child about that, it's appropriate, and check that they don't have allergies. Obviously, we can't have peanuts or things like that in the room with children. Like same sort of rules apply as at school. Then it should be okay. We don't need to sort of see children back to back and wear ourselves out without any sustenance. And that's okay. And if your workplace hasn't spoken to you about this, go to the boss and say, what can I do? How can I do this? And address it as a team with your colleagues, because no one should be feeling like they depleted on energy. If you're seeing children having a busy day, even in meetings, take it to meetings.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm actually about to do an energy management session with my team in these next school holidays, just about looking at what fills our cup, and being aware of what fills our cup and what drains our cup. And I've done a lot of this with Lorraine Murphy under her mentoring. But I think it's really, really important to be aware of the tendencies that we feel personally. And that can be, are we an introvert versus are we an extrovert? And, how do we fill our cup after a really busy day? And I think that comes back to that exercise component as well, because we can think that, going out and doing a long run is going to be really good for us because that fills our cup. And yes, it does, but we need to be mindful that it's also a very energy expensive task as well. So it's just like being aware of all that. I remember writing down in one of my planning sessions things that filled my cup and things that drained my cup. And then I even categorized them from there and going, this is something to do when I feel like I've got energy, and this is something to do when I feel like, I'm on like tinkering on the edge.
That's a really good exercise. People should do that. That's really good. And I think that can sort of lead into how you spend your time, right? Because if you're having white space on the weekend, so white space is where you've got nothing penciled in, right? So, you might have plans. We always need to make sure we've got white space. Then you can pull out that list or identify what Lizzie was saying, like if you're an introvert or an extrovert, and go, okay, well, how am I going to use this time to fill my cup or this white space in my weekend or, at night? Or if you do half days on Fridays or whatever, how are you going to use that time to fill your cup? And if you are doing activities that don't fill your cup, being aware of that and being aware that then you're going to be more tired. So, then it's looking at your diet, your sleep, making sure that then that's maybe a bit more balanced to help you as well if you're doing activities that will drain your cup. Because sometimes, particularly mum life, we can't always do things that always fill our cup all of the time. So it's being aware of how to balance the other elements as well.
Yeah, and that's right. Like I was just saying with launch, I was launching. I knew that was a really busy time. So it was not the time for me to do my hardest training sessions. I went to the bathhouse and the sauna, City Cave, the sauna place. I think I went 4 times in a week and did yin yoga. And it was all these kind of low energy, expensive cup filling tasks that I had identified to do when I was really busy with work, or when, because you need to be able to call on things, when you're feeling like you need to fill your cup that are not necessarily going to deplete you even more. Like when I've got a big social thing on the weekends, say it's a Saturday lunch or a Saturday afternoon, I don't do a big run that morning because I feel like that is too much because the social stuff for me is quite taxing because I'm more introverted. So I find that if I do a big run and then have a lunch, I just wind up exhausted for a week.
See, I'm the opposite. I love going out and having a lunch or talking to people. So that would give me energy. Whereas a run, I really have to push myself to do that. So we're just the opposite, aren't we? So I know that actually I'm more actually inclined to do a run if I have a social engagement, because I then know that the run is going to be hard for me. Sometimes mentally, if I'm pushing myself, then I then can go and socialize, and I feel like that fills my cup.
Yeah.
And it's just different personalities, right? And
that's right. And it's knowing yourself, isn't it? Because I love socializing, but I do find it quite energy taxing. Whereas for you, and that's the definition of extrovert and introvert, isn't it? Is where you
I wouldn't define myself as an extrovert, but yes, I do derive energy talking to people. Yes.
So you're an extroverted introvert.
Yeah. What is it? Ambivert.
Yeah. Well, that's I think I'm somewhere on, somewhere in between as well. Yeah.
But I like, one way that I really like to fill my cup is reading. And I always read like a nice novel or something like that. And I just did that on the weekend. So we had a really busy day on Sunday. So on Saturday afternoon, I just made sure that the kids were okay and they had an activity to do. And I just sat with a cup of tea and read my book, because I was like, I need to do something this weekend that's going to fill my cup. And so for me, that was reading. And it's like getting lost in a novel, or watching Netflix and getting lost in a TV show, like it's that mental relaxation.
Absolutely. What are you reading?
At the moment, well, I'm going back into, because there's a new series coming out, or the new movie coming out with Blake Lively. This Is Us.
Oh.
What's the other? Colleen Who is it Colleen Hoover?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone will know it.
Cool.
Everyone
Yeah,
will
yeah,
know
yeah.
it.
Cool.
So that I've read her books, and then the movie's about to come out. I can't wait for that to come out because I keep seeing it on my Instagram. So I've gone
Yeah.
back and I've read them.
What's the book called?
It's This Is Us, or Starts With Us. There's
Oh,
2 or 3 of
yes.
them.
Starts with us and ends with us.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yes.
So
Yes.
good.
Oh,
Yes.
This Is Us is a TV show. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
I
yeah.
also love.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
I've read
so
both of them. Great
it's coming
books.
out. The movie's coming out, which, yeah, exciting, really exciting. But I think it's good because it touches on a lot of hot topics in society.
Yes.
But anyway, we could do a whole other episode on that.
On novels.
Yes, on book club. I was thinking the other day, maybe I should start a book club. Anyway.
I'm in.
But yeah, so that's an example of a way that I would fill my cup. Let's talk a little bit more about now, like maybe the medical side, because we talked about naturopaths before. So obviously, like, definitely there's definitely a role for the GP. There's definitely a role for traditional medical practice, I guess. So we would highly recommend get a medical plan with your GP. Whether you have infections or, it's cold and flu tablets. Like I like to do sore throat gargle, which is a very something you can buy off the shelf in the chemist, which has got if I feel a niggle, I will always sore throat gargle, protect my voice as a speechy. Liz, you like to do tonic, don't you?
Yeah, so I'm on a naturopath tonic every day. I'm actually not on it at the moment. I need to get it. This is a good reminder. I need to get it. That is made specifically for me by my naturopath based on blood tests. So that is really good. I find that helps. I also
is that for your immunity, or that's for throat? Or immunity.
Immunity and sinusitis, because I get recurrent sinusitis. So, and it's really important, I think, to be guided by your GP or, medical professional that is aware. So one, having the same doctor that you see on a regular basis, so you're not seeing all different doctors, I think is really important. And then, then formulating a plan with them based on what is a good plan for you. So I've got asthma. So as soon as I get sick, I'm on my preventative steroid. I'm on Ventolin. If I get any sort of cold, I'm on Sudafed cold and flu, because I get sinusitis and it ends up, I've had staph infections and been in hospital for a week, a couple of times. So I've got a specific plan for me. So might not be what someone else needs. That might not be what you need, of course. But that is what I've formulated with my GP. And I think we can really undervalue a good relationship with our GP to get a good plan. Last year, I thought I was actually clinically depressed. I thought I was burnt out and clinically depressed. I was miserable for months. I reckon it was about 8 months, which is just devastating, because I then went to my GP and I just said, I'm not good. I don't know. And I thought it was hormonal, which it quite possibly could have been, but she said, okay, we need to do some blood tests. We did blood tests and my iron was really low. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I've been, working half days for months on and off and just miserable. I was like, I'm done. I don't think I can do this anymore. I just thought I was mentally unwell, when it was really I just didn't think about going to the GP, and I'm in the health field. I have gone to the GP before. It's, I'm usually quite proactive. So I think that if anything is wrong, or even if there's nothing wrong, and maybe even if you're starting to work with kids and that there's going to be an increased incidence of getting sick, going to the GP, your regular GP, and going, I'm just about to start working full time, new grads, this is for you. I'm just about to be starting to work full time. So it's going to be quite taxing. I'm going to be learning a lot. It's intense going into full time as a new grad, because you're learning so much. I'm working with kids. I'm going to be exposed to, X, Y, and Z. Who knows? What can I do from a preventative measure? And getting a blood test, getting your baseline so that you've got something. I think just having a really good plan and having that sorted is.
Yeah, I've had low iron before too. I think it can be a common thing with women. A lot of people that I speak to, have exactly the same thing, and particularly in pregnancy. So if you're obviously then pregnant and you're working, that can be a thing. But yeah, that's an amazing story. Like to say, go to your GP, really.
Yeah.
And so there's other, so you were saying you take the tonic. There's like the Armour Force tablets as well, which you could take, which you can get from the chemist. I think you have to go, like they have to get it behind the chemist, like you can't just grab them off the shelf, but they're a good immunity tablet. My naturopath also gave me immunity boosting tablets. They were like a fauna and a flora type thing with a probiotic. So we take them through winter. I give them to Mackie as well, my husband, and then we would then split the tablet and put it in the girls' wheat bix,
Yeah.
which she said was fine. Again, that was advice for us. But I think it then also comes down to your gut health, right? Like with these antibiotics. And if you're taking antibiotics, that cleans your gut and takes away all of your good bacteria and your bad bacteria, the virus. So it's then looking at how can you build yourself up with your gut health. There was an interesting show that came out on Netflix. I haven't watched it yet, and it's all about gut health. And it just like it just popped up on my thing last night. So I was like, educating yourself. If you're in Netflix, I don't know whether that's any good, but reading books about gut health. There's lots of doctors and professionals that write books about that, podcasts about it, YouTube videos about it, of how you can improve your gut health through natural measures like bone broth and things like that are really, really good.
Yeah.
And I guess that's preventative as well.
Yeah.
But once you've, if you're taking all these medical things, or if you've had antibiotics, it's a good thing to look at. Or if you've got like feeling like you were feeling as well. But so the professionals that we probably recommend are the GP. We've both found we've really loved seeing a naturopath. The only thing with a naturopath that I would specify is that they do cost a fair bit of money, like not the actual consult, but the medicines they give you and things like that. So I always tell people that, because I remember I went for the first time and got really taken back and shocked, because I thought, the consult's like $80 or $90. And then to then have like a $200 to $300 bill with all these medications.
Plus.
Yeah. So it is expensive. So, that might, as a student, be aware of that. Don't get taken back. Don't, think that through. Maybe speaking to a dietitian about diet, looking at your white space and knowing yourself and personal development, like we spoke about, is really good. Is there any other professionals in there, or that like maybe an exercise person? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you choose who you might need for you. Like for me, that includes a psychologist, a naturopath. I obviously know my own exercise, but a physio. Like it's having your health team. And I think that can be really nicely planned or mapped with your GP. So I would start with your GP and then do a bit of your own research as well, and find a GP that you really click with, that aligns with your values maybe, and then map out a preventative plan. Because while a naturopath or all of it is going to cost money, being sick also costs you a lot of money.
Absolutely. And it does with your energy as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think just having a bit of a plan and starting to think about it. I think it's something that you don't think about until you need to. So you're welcome from us.
Yeah. And I mean, don't settle for being sick all the time. Like Liz was saying last year, she was thinking, it's me. I'm just going to keep going. Don't settle for being sick all the time. Don't settle for feeling like average. If you're waking up after, 8 hours of sleep and you're still feeling tired, don't settle for that. Investigate, be curious, like we spoke about in our last episode, or last season, I should say. Like, be curious with yourself as you're curious with your children, and start to think, okay, this can be better. Not something's wrong, but this can be better. I want to have energy waking up in the morning. I want to have, I want to be feeling in a good mental space and be feeling physically well to go to work or to socialize or to do the things that I want to do on the weekends. And so take responsibility for your health, I guess. Take responsibility in talking to your employee or your supervisor or whoever's in charge of you. Talk to your professionals. Don't settle for being sick all the time. And I think, Lizzie, do you have a webinar on burnout or sickness?
Yes, I have done a webinar it's within my course membership, but I'll get that out for us and pop a link up for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've spoken about burnout. I spoke about burnout at the ESSA conference last year, which forced me to kind of unpack, and we talked about the stats last season. It's pretty scary. And I think that it's more common. There's research, and I'll pop a reference down in the show notes, but it's actually in the research that high achievers are more likely to face burnout, anxiety, depression, and that can all have an impact on your immune system and your health. So I think just being proactive is the key.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to learn more from Lizzie about that, you can watch her webinar on burnout. We'll put the links below. If you want to read up, there will be an article below for you as well. And I also talk a little bit about this in my ebook, which you can get as well from my website. For a very low cost as well. So we hope you have enjoyed our first episode back for season 2. We have loads more goodness coming your way. We will be in your earbuds next week.